UNPAVED, Sean Salisbury here. We're bringing authentic, real stuff to you. Hardcore opinion.
Sean Salisbury, former NFL quarterback.
29-year-old Sean Salisbury, his second start as a National Football League quarterback.
All right, welcome into UNPAVED. I'm Sean Salisbury. Adam Sager will be along in just a second. I'm in my chi today. Is that right? Segs, come on in now. This is UNPAVED. Grateful to have you with us every single day at 1 o'clock. What the fuck's my chi? Do you know what that is?
I have no idea. Is that
so
like
I think Bailey, are you? I don't know if Bailey's on camera. If he can respond, because sometimes he doesn't. Because I know when I'm in my zen, you know, when you're in that relaxed zen. But if you're in your chi, is your chi like your point of full peace of mind or
is that like a Pilates
euphoria?
Term
huh?
Is that like a Pilates term? Are you doing Pilates?
Maybe. I'm not doing pilots. I call it pilots, thanks. But I just wonder, people, I know we get a lot of comments in here, but if I wake up and I say, man, I'm in my chi this morning, is that like I'm in my best place? Am I euphoria? I mean, you know, like maybe you had a little bang fest and you're feeling good. Maybe it's pre-bang. Maybe it's you wake up and you know the show's the best show in the country, like UNPAVED is. I just made birdie, which doesn't happen very often. When am I in my chi?
All right, so this is from AI on
you hit the Google alert or the AI?
I hit
the
Google AI.
Chat or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Quote, in my chi typically means being in touch with one's own inner vital energy, life force, or personal power, often relating to feelings of balance, flow, and mindfulness.
There you go. Thanks. Today and every day, I'm starting my day in my chi. Right now, I'm in my chi. Are you? You don't even want to pronounce it. It's not your chai. It is your chi, right? It's pronounced chi. Okay, it's so I'm in my chi today. I love the show.
Sean.
So there you go. I mean, when's the last time you were in your chi? How's that? Now that you described it.
Last night.
You were in your chi last night.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm kind of tired today. Just you know, not really in my chi yet, but maybe it'll happen during the show, and I'll take off.
Dude, if I get you convinced that you're one of those cats that starts coming out here, and I see your whole demeanor change to your chi,
I've got like candles lit in the background.
Oh yeah. What do you mean, dude?
Incense.
I might be gay. I might be gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
why? Not that
definitely didn't say no to.
Yeah. And somebody said, well, you played a great game, man, in Benchwarmers. Said, you know, coach, that's okay. The reason I was saying that, I'm a gay happy, Segs, but, you know, who's counting? Who cares? I might be because I am to my left, first of all, I do like scented candles. I'm going to tell you something that's going to take away my man card or it's going to enhance it. If you guys out there don't get I got the diffuser from Aroma 360.
Yeah.
It's a big one. People will plug it into Ritz-Carlton. You walk into a Four Seasons and you smell it in the lobby. And for years I've been saying, I got to get this. Candles just don't do the whole widespread. And while they may be expensive, dude, it got me in my chi. I swear it comes on, you set the timer, comes on. When I walk into my house now, and I'm like obsessive about cleanliness. I walk in, I feel like I'm in Hawaii at a resort, or I went to Cabo, or I'm at some high-end. And I'm telling you right now, the diffuser 360 from Aroma 360, I went in there, and it covers the majority of my home, a couple thousand square feet of it, not all of it, and I'm telling you, dude, it's awesome because one day I get the Ritz-Carlton, a month later, maybe the Four Seasons, the month later, maybe whatever that is. So if that takes away my man card, have at it. So scented candles. This is scented candles on steroids.
Yeah,
good
I
fresh
think that's
smell.
okay.
No musty. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay, right? To elevate better.
Yeah, your house don't need to smell like shit or anything to be a man. I think if it smells good,
no, but I'm talking about
sometimes
you walk in.
Mood.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you walk into like on a resort or vacation, you walk in smelling that lobby, you're like, damn, this is going to be relaxing and peaceful. Yes. And I want that to be my house. So I walk in. Makes and it's sense. Even like if you're like cooking something that may have a little smell, you got onions in the house, you're cutting them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's not one of those things where you're like putting a, like a Band-Aid on shit, right? Where you peel it off and it still smells like shit, right? But this is just so refreshing. It's like it's got me in my chi. So if you're asking, should I spend the extra money to do it? I'm just telling you, it's one of the great investments. Yeah, the tobacco leather smells, the masculine mixed in with the good. I'm just telling you, it will change your mood. I know that sounds a little bit gay. That's okay. Gay happy. I'm talking about sex. I've studied for a role, so I had to get into my chi then in that role, right? But let's get to these Trojans. And spring ball, it's slow sports. Yeah, we're waiting for the tournament to kick back in. That'd be fine. But with that, what's easier? We got coaches bitching like, well, is it me that they have to face what? UConn segs?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Get that, but I want to talk about freshman impact on the physical positions. And I know you got a bunch of questions on that. While it may be off season for some, not for the fighting USC Trojans who are trying to get into their fall chi.
Yes.
Spring, and I'm a big believer that springtime leads you to championship football in the fall if you do it right.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about physicality when it comes to the Trojans, and mostly it's been on the defensive side of the ball. But when you look at the offense, where you want the physicality is up front with those 5 big giants trying to protect your quarterback or opening up lanes for your running back. And they have 7 freshmen coming in. This is the #1 recruiting class when it comes to the high school kids coming in. USC ranks #1, and Lincoln Riley was asked about those young kids and when could they make an impact on this team? Could it be as early as this season? Here's what Lincoln Riley had to say about that.
The young linemen are not far away physically from being able to help us, and so now it's just going to be mentally, obviously, learning what we're doing schematically. I think learning the technique, fundamentals that you got to play with at this level. Again, like I mentioned, the intensity of every single snap, but yeah, there's not a lot of guys in that group that are like just so far out developmental that you'd say, hey, physically they're 2 or 3 years away, right? There's a lot of guys that can, if they go in there and have a good rep right now, can hold their own against most of the guys out here. And so, so that's been really good to see. And obviously right now, Killian's still a little bit limited right now. Page is still a little bit limited. So Tobias has been a little bit limited, and so it's opening up some opportunities for, that next group, whether it's returners or obviously the true freshmen that have come in to get a lot of reps. So they're getting thrown in the fire, and they're going to get better quickly.
Let me go ahead.
Yeah,
you go ahead first.
No, ask, please. No.
Okay. I was going to ask. As you're the NSR recruiting director there. You have obviously down there in Houston. You're with some of the best high school talent in the country. Year in, year out. You go watch these games. We have all the high school all-star games throughout the year. How hard is it as an offensive lineman to be physically ready as an incoming freshman at just 18 when you're going against sometimes 22, 23, even 24-year-olds that are physically mature, yet you're just 18? How hard of a transition is that for an 18-year-old senior true freshman coming in to a school, especially like USC?
Yeah, where the physicality is more than it's physical. It's like old man strength that you're dealing with. Things a little older, even though they're you consider a 24-year-old man in college, right?
Right. Yes.
I think that's a brilliant question. I'm gonna tell you is what happens. You can be in hell. We know these 18-year-olds may be bench pressing the team bus, but when they get there, it's not even just the strength segs. It's how to apply it in a uniform on the field with four other cats up front with you, right? Now I know it's a man-on-man game, but with zone blocking and understanding the concept. Because what paralyzes you more than anything? When your mind goes south, think about golf, think about business. When your mind goes south and you've been dominated mentally, physically, you get paralyzed, which you want the opposite. You want to be mentally so sharp and focused, you're not thinking, you're just reacting and playing. Then that strength or that athleticism that you have as a high school senior that left school early and you're in your first spring as a freshman, how do you apply it? Because listen, all those big fellas are going to get on the bench, and within 10 or 15 pounds, they're pretty similar. The vet, one guy bench press 225 25 times, one guy do it 28 times. My point is, just being physically strong is nice and fine in a wrestling match on the field, but how to apply that? It sounds so cheesy and simple, but it really is, Segs. The key for those guys is not to get mentally behind in spring practice, so when you get those reps, you can apply them. It's very difficult. Because think about what you're thinking about. The prom's supposed to be a month and a half away, and you're like, damn, or you've already, after spring break, and you got to play against a 23-year-old who is an All-American potential, is going to be a first-round draft pick, and you got to figure out how to block it. And while you're scared to death and peeing down your leg in those physical drills in the spring, the mental side kicks in. So you went and got your guy, but you went and got the wrong guy. Hey, we love you for going 100 miles an hour, but you got to know who to get. And so you're thinking about it, and that's why even in the spring, staying in your book, and Segs, it's a brilliant question because it also leads me from spring to fall. Why spring practice? It's lost its luster for some places, but if you do it right, spring ball ends up being 2 games for the freshmen. We talk about getting ready. Some of those freshmen up front, Segs, I don't want to just create. I still want my veterans to get some work, but listen, I don't need to crush my offensive guard who's going to be a first-team All-American in the spring, but I still need him to get rhythm with the young guys if he can. If he's not practicing, this is a phenomenal opportunity. Like we used to look at the bowl season. Yeah. Hey, man, we're playing it. We get extra practice. Let's get some of these guys some work. Now you've moved it forward because, well, a lot of those guys either opt out or you're not getting the what have you, and some still utilize it properly, but you don't want to get guys hurt. In the spring, it's an opportunity when a freshman gets a chance like this to basically play 2 games. And I don't even mean a spring ball game, which most don't seem to have anymore. I'm just talking about the daily practice. To me, it equates to on 20-some days of practice or whatever we're at now, to be able to take it to the fall and say, I got some practice. Because I can tell you this, and when you're playing in a Big Ten or the SEC or in college football at a Power 4 school, and I decide to throw you in. Now, listen, Segs, if it's a receiver, I'm not saying receivers have it easier, but you're lined up in a stance. We've talked over, they're playing 3 coverages. You don't have to block Anthony. You're running a curl route. Run me a friggin' curl route. You just got to get off the ball so the guy doesn't manhandle. The big linemen who we say, the big, dumb, fat guys, in truth, those are some really big, smart guys because they got to say, this receiver a lot of times isn't worried about that guy, although I think it's smart to know what everybody's doing so you get it. But the right guard must know what the right tackle's doing on certain or if you step wrong and he steps wrong, 2 guys down, easy hit on my quarterback or the back in the backfield. It's the mental grind because a lot of these young freshmen are just as tough and physical as the junior because they've had the training. But how to apply it in spring takes you. So let's just say a guy or 2 go down in the fall. And if you were Lincoln Riley, if it was me as a coach, I'd be like, damn, we only got him a little work. The kid came in this late. We had everybody play. What are we going to do here? We got an All-American quarterback. We've got a great run game. 2 guys are down now. But you'll look back now saying, as you heard Lincoln say there, it looks like they're ready to play. They're getting some of these invaluable reps. If you approach spring practice, especially the physical and mental side of, I'm not simplifying it for the running back, but if you're a running back, Segs, all when in doubt, use your speed, run to daylight, man. Go make me a play. Yeah. Right guard, use your strength. Well, yeah, use your strength, but if I'm blocking the wrong guy and the free runner comes on my guy, then I mentally screwed up. Even though I might have dominated the guy I wasn't supposed to block, they still tackled me in the backfield. So if you'll use spring ball right, spring ball is not just spring ball because, hey, we got to be out there. Spring ball to me is the same thing as saying this is applicable to the fall. We must make it serious without getting people hurt and learning how to practice. It's another thing, freshmen. What do you think a freshman lineman's doing if he's got to deal with an edge rusher or tackle, Segs, that comes in and has got to block that guy for 20-plus days in the spring? He's coming in thinking, okay, man, I'm thinking I got to get physical. I got to get physical. And when you're lying down a 3-point stance, your mind, Segs, is everywhere. It's everywhere. But now think if they can learn in the spring to slow that down to where the mental reps, knowing who to block, the physical stuff will come. Yeah. The mental stuff is the hard. So for me, it's not just, we all love the cheers when a guy pancakes a guy in the spring, right, Segs? But in truth, I'm looking deeper into it saying, okay, what if? And I always want to plan for what could worst happen. And if it doesn't, great, but at least we're prepared for it. And that's why spring ball is so significant and important if you do it right. So that freshman, and can you imagine, Segs, walking out there in January, your first thought is, I'm going against these big guys. I got these All-Americans. I'm practicing at USC. I knew what that was like as a freshman, as a quarterback, but those guys, there's so many elements to those big fellas that you got to do. And you're taking on a All-America edge rusher. And if you look embarrassed there, then you go to the fall thinking, man, okay, I can block him. I'm just as strong as him, but he's so much smarter than me. I don't know how to get to him. And so that's what happens in the fall. This is invaluable. I'm not worried about the starters not playing. I need them in the fall because freshmen now, Segs, they're impacting programs. You've seen it on your Michigan team. You said they impact programs everywhere. And the one place you can't have average or below average is that position. I honestly can get by if my receiver isn't overly physical, learn how to play physical. As long as you can get off the ball and run routes, there's a place for you. If you can block somebody, but you don't know who you're blocking, I can't play you. I just, it's like that running back who's a 2-down back, Segs, who comes in, but we got to take him out on 3rd down. Why? He doesn't know who to block, and he can't block him. So, yeah, you're great, but when we take you out, we damn well know we're either trying to throw the football, because I have to have somebody who can block a will linebacker or an edge rusher or knows when to chip. So the mental part of this, and listening to Lincoln, they're getting better at this. I think it's the focus of, will you be ready to play when we're lining up against your damn guys, Segs, and we got to be able to block them? Yeah. If you haven't got any spring work, I don't know how you block them unless you're Anthony Munoz, and I'm sure Moon even struggled right off the bat as a freshman. So while we always talk about the big guys, they're going to be fine. Oh, no. Don't discount the mental side of who you're blocking in the spring so you know exactly what you're doing in the ball. I think it's easier transition for a wide receiver or running back. I do, because the physical is after you catch the ball. Just learn how to get off the ball. For them, they got to be physical. They got to know what the guy next to him is doing. They also got to know who to get to the second level and blitz pickup and slide in the line. It's a far more mental game than people think. I'll take a guy who knows who to block more than I will a guy who can bench press the team bus. It goes back to that athlete football player thing. Says, give me a football player. I'm going to win and beat you more than you're going to beat me.
Yeah, and it's just something that, with NIL, with the transfer portal, it still seems like, we see a lot of freshman quarterbacks, freshman wide receivers, DBs, linebackers. Those guys will go right into the portal. It doesn't seem like we have a lot of young offensive linemen that, maybe think they should be playing, but they aren't. So then they're like, well, screw this. I'm just going to go somewhere else with the transfer portal and NIL and that kind of stuff. So I think that's good for football, that these guys will sit, they will learn their craft. And if they are good enough, they'll get the playing time, because, if you are one of the top offensive tackles and you are a true freshman, if you're not playing, other teams know that, and then they're going to come try and take you. But offensive linemen sitting and learning is a good thing for the future of football in the NFL and so on.
Segs, I'm going to tell you one thing that you are 100% correct about, and I'm even going to take it a step further. You want to know why and maybe the numbers are different. Maybe we're skewing them with this, but I think you're onto something. I'm going to tell you what it comes down to, dude. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, defensive backs. I know this is going to sound harsh, and it's not. It's kind of meant affectionately, but if it sounds harsh, fuck you. You're going to have to deal with it. Is their egos and their entitlement on every team I've ever been on, those positions feel more entitled than the offensive linemen do. I'm just telling you, 100%. They do. Listen, if you feed an offensive lineman and let him know you care about him and treat him with respect, they'll be there for you. If you feed a wide receiver, feed a quarterback, feed a DB, and give them what they want and treat them with respect, they want more. I'm not saying all of them. It's not a blanket statement, but I'm just telling you, on teams I've been on, there's far less ego and far less need for your extra outside influence, man. You're the best. Every now and then you'll run into one. They all have pride and ego. I'm talking about an outlandish one that, oh, you benched me after one game. I'm going to be a pussy and transfer. Yeah. The big fellas, most of them that I've been around that are worth their weight, and it's worth their weight in gold. Thank you, Augusta Precious Metals. Yeah. Is that they say, oh, I'm not playing next week. I'm going to fight back. Now, you'll get that at wide receivers and quarterbacks, but I'm talking about overall. The ego, pride, and entitlement is less than, maybe it's the fact that when you win a game, nobody talks to them. They're always talking to everybody in high school and junior high, and it's just embedded in them. We're just not going to get love. hence why the quarterback and everybody else should be taking them out to meal and recognizing them. It's simply this. They're more entitled at perimeter skilled positions than they are at offensive linemen. Those guys work together. They run to the trouble as opposed to running from it. And a lot of people that up and run that pushed out and they said, well, I got beat out. Now, if you transfer for the right reasons, no problem. But if you get beat out and you don't have the guts to compete because somebody took your job in the spring, then may I suggest you get back to work and go do it. Linemen take more pride in that than they do running for an extra 25 grand. I'm just telling you, they do. Take it what you want. It's a fact. Less ego with the fellas up front. Their ego comes from kicking your ass. Their ego doesn't come from praise from the outside world. And that's exactly why they gutted out, from my vantage point, more than guys on the perimeter. Their expectations for people's approval are far less than they want their coach and their teammates' approval. I'm just telling you, the outside extra stuff, the perimeter people feel more entitled. I know it. Quarterback, at times we all feel a little more entitled and we shouldn't. And then I learned to try to adopt the big fella's personality. But the truth of the matter is they care more about us than they do about me. And I love that about them. And it'll sustain you a lot longer than a guy who's going to run at the first sign of adversity.
Yeah, yes, for sure. We'll see if any of those 7 true freshman offensive line that are in camp, or maybe a redshirt freshman can crack through, make the starting offensive line for the USC Trojans as the season starts, or at any point during the season. A guy we've talked about a lot is because he says some really stupid shit, and he says, you know, he tries to be this very insightful guy, former NFL player, thinks he can kind of talk about everything. That's Emmanuel Acho. Well, former running back Leonard Fournette, who was with the Jags, the Bucks, and a few others, he kind of went off on Emmanuel Acho. He's a very big former LSU running back.
He
went off.
Had Leonard on. He's a good dude too.
Yes, he is. He went off on Emmanuel Acho. Here's what Leonard Fournette had to say.
Listen. Listen, I'm trying to just keep my mind clear. Emmanuel Echo. Was he a starter?
No, he wasn't a starter at all.
Oh, he was a bench player.
Yeah, 100%.
It says 33 tackles in your career. It says he started 2 games.
In his career?
In his career. Out of every NFL analyst they have, he has the weakest resume.
I agree.
Like, what did you talking like? And guess what? This is our last time even speaking about you on here, but I had to let you know, like, we not them. You just can't you say, oh, Jarvis had a good career. Leonard was a dog. Jarvis was a dog. Leonard, yes, was a dog. Emmanuel was ass.
Period.
Okay. There's a lot of legs this. Leonard may not be lying. If we're just talking about on-field stuff, he probably, you're not going to mistake him for Zach Thomas. Okay.
No, not.
Or you're not going to mistake him for Will Anderson. Okay, that part I get.
No.
I do know this. I will say this. I'm just sliding this in, and I think Leonard knows this. And what podcast was that on? Do we know?
I'm not sure if that must be his podcast that he does.
Yeah. So, and Leonard Fournette is a football player in Jesse and brought a load, dude. Is what happens is I do believe you could still be a great analyst, and not be a superstar. Plenty of proof. We see it. Look all over your television screens, buddy. They're everywhere. There's plenty of analysts that give good shit that aren't stars. Here's what it goes back to, Segs, and that's why guys like this, when Acho, or when you hear, some of the some ESPN or any analyst, that makes it fucking personal. Again, what I don't believe that a guy, when you make it personal, listen, to be an NFL football player for the most part, you got to have some dog in you. Yeah. Some are poodles and bark a lot louder than are that. What's that damn dog that barks all the time? The yapper. There's
the little
like a
Chihuahua type.
Yeah, Chihuahua. Past the Chalupa dog, right? That Chihuahua.
Yep.
That yap a lot. And then when you get it right up onto them, I've watched guys that play like that look like Tarzan and play like Jane, although Jane now may be Tarzan in society. Right. Who the hell knows? But they can talk, but when you got to block that guy, you get your ass kicked, right? Yeah. You look good in the uniform, but you couldn't sack a quarterback if he jumped in your lap and you guys were dating. Okay, so with that, you can be a great analyst, but I don't know that it's the personal thing. Leonard Fournette was a dog. Most guys who play in this league got some dog in them. A lot of the time, it's just the consistent dog's the one who's a bigger dominator. But it's when you cross the line, that guy, for an analyst to set up and call somebody else when you knew how tough it was to play. And Acho should know how tough it was to play. Leonard Fournette pointed it out. I know how tough it was to play. Start some, play backup most of your career. Do you think I'm dumb enough? Now, when a guy throws the ball to the other team 5 times, he had an ass game, doesn't make him a lack of a dog. He just had a bad day. Now, if it's a guy that does it all the time, guess what? He'll be out of the league with a microphone in his face 2 years later and won't be playing football. Leonard Fournette's right. It doesn't mean that a backup or an average player can't be a great analyst. Where you get into trouble in this business, and we all have pride. I've heard broadcasters talk about my career that never put a uniform on in their life. Now, you go ahead and opinion because some of it's right. But when you make it personal, I fight back, man, fuck you. Okay? Yeah. The last time when you lined up, when you make it personal, then it's on. And it's a full-blown fight. Because if you ain't got tape, then you ain't got shit to say to me, even though I was a backup for a decade. I know what it's like. Yeah. Now, if you're fair and say, Sean played horribly, and that's 3 bad games in a row are tough, that he's going to lose his starting job, guess what? You are spot on. Where some athletes can't take the truth. If you're giving me the truth and it's not personal, I don't have a problem with it. But if we're at a time when guys who've never strapped it on, that the last time they shot a jump shot was in their own home gym that they built with all the money they're making by giving hot takes and talking shit about people, and they build their own home gym. And you say, did you ever apply that in any type of action? If you didn't make it personal, you say how tough it is to shoot a jump shot, and you're showing me, I get it. But when you cross line, this guy sucks, and you didn't get into the battle or the war or the, whether it's, when I say war, I'm referring to sports war, real war. Then if you haven't got into the battle, you can still judge and evaluate what I did, no problem. But when you cross the line of personal, this guy threw 3 picks, he sucked his whole career. Now come see me. Because if your idea of suck was you turning on a microphone and you sucked more ass than you could ever imagine and you weren't picked on your high school team, stay away from getting personal with me. Professional, listen, you don't have to tell me when I suck. I know. Had plenty of it. Right. So I think what happens is when you start to act like the expert who dominated in your event and make it personal that some guy isn't a dog, they come back and question you. They have a right to. When you cross the line of personal, now it's on. You tell me I didn't play well, because right now, be honest with you, Acho has no comeback for Leonard Fournette on this. He when it comes to making it personal. So my point, and Acho's done some good work. He's done some on TV. I don't know about his career because I didn't play against him and it was short, and that's okay. And I wouldn't. He did play in the league, which gives him more up on some of the guys who didn't. But you are qualified to talk about the game, even if you didn't play or were average at it. When you cross the line is when it pisses athletes off because they want to know how often were you in the action. And to me, great content doesn't mean hot takes. Great content means you're giving me an honest take that may hurt feelings, but if it's fair as an athlete, I don't have an argument. It may piss me off, but you know what it pisses me off for, Segs? Is that the guy was right. Yeah. And in this case, you can be average and still be a good analyst, but when you cross the line of trying to tell a great player or a really good player what he did wrong and make it personal, oh, that guy sucked. He has never been able to get to. Now you open yourself up to that. If you stay away from personal and somebody's got a problem with it, fuck them. I don't care what their problem is. But if you make it personal, you open the floodgates to it's on. So anytime you want to talk about my career, have at it. You want to make it personal about my career when you didn't strap it up, then we can fight all day long. And in the end, the standing 8 count is on you, not on me, because I actually did it, even if you don't like how I did it. Yeah. And that's the way. So Acho did respond to this?
Yes, he did respond. And real quick, that's the 4th and South podcast with Jarvis Landry and Leonard Fournette where that was said.
Jarvis Landry was a friggin' dog, dude.
Oh, dude.
Anybody that watched that cat play at LSU, Jarvis Landry was a dog times 2. Matter of fact, there was a point in time when people thought he was a better receiver than Odell Beckham was.
Yeah.
Even though I'm serious, as far as consistency goes, not the flash. But both of them on the same team, a couple of dogs there, and Lenny Fournette was one of them as well.
Yes, and then this is Acho's response real quick.
Career. Oh, not good at all. Bum, backup, all the things. But I was a 6th-round pick. I probably should have been. Leonard Fournette won a Super Bowl. I'm happy for him. But why you got a podcast in your hand? Why ain't you got a football in your hand? Because 8 running backs drafted after Leonard Fournette were still in the league last year. Top 5 running back. Adrian Peterson was a top 5 running back. LaDainian Thompson was a top 5 running back. So let's not talk about careers. Because if we're being honest, based on where we were drafted, we both underwhelmed in the NFL. Let's talk about the takes. The takes say that Kevin Stefanski was the best thing that happened to the Cleveland Browns. The takes say that Kevin Stefanski was really good when he had a good quarterback, going to the playoffs and winning a playoff game. The takes were accurate. The last time you were born, Leonard Fournette, the Browns have not seen a coach better than Kevin Stefanski. That is the take. You start talking about credentials, there's no need to talk about credentials. I didn't have a good NFL career. But we start talking about credentials, I got to start mentioning the fact that Samaje Perine drafted after you, still in the league. Aaron Jones undrafted after you, still in the league. Christian McCaffrey drafted after you, still in the league. I got to start mentioning Austin Eckler drafted after you, still in the league. I got to start mentioning a bunch of stuff if we start talking about ball. Let's not talk about ball. Underwhelming career. Hi, that's me. That's why I moved on into another career. But now you've moved into another career. So now we got to start talking about takes. And the fact of the matter is, learn somebody's name before you speak on them. That's the bare minimum into having a conversation, is knowing somebody's name. It's Acho, by the way. That's the bare minimum having a conversation. I do not think it is uncalled for to be like, hey, yo, if you don't know a dude's name, you can't speak on the man.
For me, Segs, listen, I don't think there's an all or nothing part of this. I don't
agree.
I think it's a fairly weak comeback by Acho. He's a smart guy, and he's done some. Listen, you don't have to like a guy to recognize that he's done some good work. Guys, QuickBooks, he has. He may overload his mouth with his ass, but who hasn't in this business? We all do. What I don't like about the comeback is you start talking. Well, let's not talk about ball. When wasn't it started by him talking about ball and who was the dog and who wasn't and who was good and who wasn't? Yeah. And then you got the response because you're going to get clapped back at when that happens. So. And then he went into the comparison phase. This isn't college recruiting where, well, we're down to the 2 guys. Who do I want more? The fact is, why am I comparing Leonard Fournette to Adrian Peterson? I'm comparing Leonard Fournette to Acho, right? Isn't that the comparison here, Jarvis Landry to Acho? So listen, Stefanski did good things. I didn't hear that take when he was talking about it. I don't know why we got off with Stefanski. Maybe that was part of the comment that Acho originally made. My point here is, you don't have to be a star to be a good analyst. Matter of fact, I've run into a lot of stars that are shitty analysts that don't know their way out of a wet paper bag because all they refer to is, well, when I did it. Great, you were a better player. I'm not saying in the Leonard Fournette Acho thing. I'm just talking about, we've seen analysts, I've worked with some, that walk on TV, they get an audition, or they hire them, and 2 weeks later, they're rolling their eyes like, this guy is awful on TV. He needs to get out, even though he was a star. It happens. And they have moved on. So you're talking about this career. But when you make it personal, and then to get back into whose career was better on the field?
Fournette.
Leonard Fournette's or Acho's? Leonard Fournette's was. Leonard Fournette defending the player. Acho out of it. What does an average player in the NFL do? You defend your next career. And Acho's had a really good next career. He's had a few stumbles along the way, but that's okay. He's trying to rebrand it and rebuild it. The bottom line here is this isn't sitting on the fence. It's just a fact. You can be average in your career and be a great analyst. But when you cross the lines and make it personal, then get into the comparison phase, I try to stay out of who was better, me or some other backup. I recognize that the Steve Bonos and Steve DeBergs who went on to be a starter, or the Dan Orlovskis, or myself, or the Chase Daniel does great work. He does great work on he does. Mm-hmm. So it depends. There's a ton of guys that do that played in the league, but Josh McCown ended up being a great player. Now he's a coach. Josh McCown's been phenomenal. His career was phenomenal. Now, if I started comparing him to Aikman, well, of course.
Right.
Right? So my thing is, I just don't understand. I do understand because everybody wants to make money and cause these fights, and some of them I think are planned, and not in this case. But why am I fighting with a guy who my career was better than his as a player, even though my career was average in the comparison phase to Warren Moon's or Elway's, my era. Yet I can also say I was better than 100 guys that were drafted in front of me, and as an undrafted guy, I lasted longer than 80% of the guys. That's not the comparison. Hell, Robbie Bosco was a hell of a college quarterback. Robbie was drafted, I think, in the 3rd round by Green Bay, had arm problems. He never really got to service.
Mm-hmm.
I have so much respect for his career. It's crazy. Even though mine went longer, he was drafted ahead of me. Robbie Bosco had a great college career. It just didn't work out because injury happens. So, Segs, I know but apparently people love to discuss this. I just try to get out of the comparison and or the personal phase. I don't, because when you do that, it's a hard fraternity to get into. It's a real easy fraternity to eliminate yourself from if you're an asshole. Don't be an asshole on either side. Both have points, but when it gets into the comparison phase on the field, I think you got to be careful who you're calling a dog in a bad way and a dog in a good way for guys that actually had better careers than you. I can always recognize it and then move on to the next part of my career that says, I know how to watch tape as good as anybody, whether it was a Super Bowl winner or not. I know football.
Right.
Yet I damn well know my career is not as good as Peyton Manning's. But I can sit in an office with Peyton Manning and go word for word with him. He may know how to attack it better because he did, but I can go word for word and understand that we can do good analysis together without me saying, well, your career wasn't quite as good as Brady's. Well, that's subjective. Some may think it was better. So to me, it's just, I don't know why we get in fights with analysts, but when they make it personal, you open up the floodgates to get fucked up by a lot of people.
And what you said there is the key. It's just not making it personal. That's the big thing. And too many people, including Nacho and others, try to make things personal when they don't need to. So
I'm not willing to lose credibility for a couple clicks and a couple extra bucks to bash the very people that built this and gave me an opportunity. Oh, and listen, if I have an opinion that a guy sucked in a game, that's okay because I know what that looked like too.
And that's
But to make it personal where we get into some guy, how they're thinking, they break the law, we got to talk about it. But I'm talking about it in a game. I got news for you. Leonard Fournette would have looked real good in the backfield with some of the great players I played with. So just stay out of the personal business. I don't know why we have to attack them. If they make a comment that they say that's stupid and they don't want to be attacked, then don't say something stupid. It's that simple.
Yes, for sure. All right. We're going to hit a quick commercial, but when we come back after the commercial, we're going to talk about what the Syracuse women's coach had to say about having to play UConn multiple times. And then we'll look real quick at Field Yates mock draft. Post free agency came out today. We can kind of look at it and see where players are starting to land and kind of see if Sean and I agree with the picks that we find. But first, tell me about Augusta Precious Metals.
Augusta Precious Metals. Guys, when you're protecting what you've already earned, IRA, 401k, it's not taxed when it comes to gold and silver and precious metals. Let's discuss moving forward how you're going to protect what you've already earned. Protect what matters most with gold and silver. Augusta Precious Metals is your premier gold IRA company. Diversify, protect, preserve. Hedge against inflation. That's what this does. Precious metals. They are tangible assets. Protect retirement savings. That retirement you've already earned, is cash doing that? Physical gold and silver, education first approach. No sales tactics at Augusta Precious Metals. That's why I was drawn to them. Drawn to them because they're not pressuring you and hammering you over the head with something. They're trying to educate you so you know what's best for you, your family, your peace of mind, your security now, later, and in the distant future. How much time you have, how much money you have. Precious Metals. It's your premier gold IRA company. That is Augusta Precious Metals. Secure your future with tangible assets. Visit SeanBuysGold.com. SeanBuysGold.com. Gold and silver continue to rise. And it's one of those, there's no guarantees in life or in sports or in money. But I'll be damned if gold and precious metals isn't about as close as you're going to get. Text Sean to 35052. Again, there's no guarantees, but there is a guarantee that you'll get educated on precious metals. Again, text Sean to 35052 or go to SeanBuysGold.com. SeanBuysGold.com. Free information, no obligation, guidance, education, and confidence. SeanBuysGold.com.
All right. Thank you to Augusta Precious Metals as always. All right, Sean. Syracuse women's basketball in the NCAA tournament had to play UConn, and their coach came out after what ends up being a third straight loss to UConn in the NCAA tournament for the Orange. Felisa Leggett-Jack opens up about this scenario where they keep having to play UConn every time they're in the tournament, and here's what she had to say.
Ask God to touch my heart and help me speak kindly about this opportunity, but also have a responsibility. And when I tell my players to woman up, I think I have to do the same thing. And for us to be coming from a 12 and 16, 18, whatever season last year, okay, let's judge me on this season. For us to do what we've done, to continuously have to come to UConn, and every single school that I go to, from Buffalo to it's unfair to the young people. I don't know whether there's, somebody said, is there something that they might have against me? If that's the case, then we need to communicate about that. But for us to be what we've done in our body of work, to have to come and play that best team in the country. I mean, Gino has this thing going, and he is, I love what he's done, but I thought deserved a little more respect after being in his business for 37 years, and to have to come and be in this particular bracket every freaking year is unacceptable.
Let me make a point about this right now. First off, you've been in the business 30-some years. Nobody cares about that when they're making selections. I'm sorry to tell you. So number one. So probably get over yourself. That's a little, good basketball coach. She's turned them around. There's no doubt they do good work. But let's just get up to these comments, not that. First of all, you got your ass kicked by 40. So whether you got kicked by 40 in the first round, the second round, or the fourth round, you were going to get your ass kicked by UConn. You mentioned how good Gino is. Spend more time doing what Gino's doing as opposed to taking a 40-point loss to that very team. I can tell you this, the committee doesn't sit up there and say, you know what, we got a good Syracuse team, good coach. Let's go punish them from her career, from wherever she's been, and we'll punish those kids because, well, we just want to put her up against UConn. You were going to lose to UConn now, tomorrow, next week. Figure out how you got to get better. Good coach, respect them, the rest of it. And then when she said, well, is it personal? Well, I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know what that hint is, but it is. Get it out of your mind right now, because the black, white, if that's any part of the only reason I say that, Segs, I read the comments in there. I looked through the comments on this earlier this morning. If that's the case, we're playing basketball now. Stop it. Just stop it. It does not exist in this sport. Just stop it. Okay. Number one, if somebody's got it in for you, that isn't the reason they send you to UConn. If you want to win a national title, you're going to have to face their ass anyway. Exactly. At some point in time, you're going to run into them. So you want to get there and lose by 40 or 50 in the semis, meaning the Final Four, or do you want to do it? And that's not a knock on a really good team. You're just running into a juggernaut that's like that they could probably beat some Segs. I'm telling you now, we talk about football, college, playing NFL teams. They get their ass kicked. I'm not so sure UConn at its best can't make the playoffs in the WNBA. I'm being dead serious about this, because those same girls are going to walk off and go dominate as rookies in the league, and 5 of them are going to end up playing in the WNBA at some point. And that's not a knock on the WNBA. Bottom line is, this is sour grapes. This is a wrong deviation from what happened. You ran into a better team that's got better players, and you got good players. But the best thing to do is nod your cap to UConn, quit worrying about where your seed is and who you're getting to play, and expect, matter of fact, you should go in expecting, I'm going to run into Gino's team along the way. UConn's really good. How are you going to beat them? I don't like this. I understand protecting her team for this. This isn't because somebody doesn't like the head basketball coach at Syracuse. It's ridiculous that this would even be said. And you know what it does? It builds in an excuse for your kids. No wonder you got your ass kicked by 40, and you're a good team, and she's a good coach from my vantage point of what she's done at Syracuse, and a great basketball program, men and women. But to build this in excuse, so is it okay for one of her players to come in and say, that person hit me for 30, but they shouldn't have scheduled us to play them.
Right.
And you shouldn't be putting me on that person. What would the coach say? Get your ass back to work and do something to defend them. Deny them the basketball. I think this is weak. And for a good coach, it just builds in, oh, this is how my team's supposed to respond to this. Respond the other way. Give the best team in America, which seems like on a regular basis. No
Yes,
disrespect to Tennessee in the past or South Carolina or Stanford's teams. But year in and year out, Geno's always got a juggernaut. And just tip your cap to them and say, one of these days they're going to pair us and we're going to be ready for it, not lose by 40.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't see your alma mater, their head coach, Lindsey Gottlieb, complaining when they lost to South Carolina by 40. I mean, it's just that's, not what coaches
You tip your cap to Don Staley and say, your team's really good, man.
Hey,
we got to get better. Yes.
You guys have put together a tremendous program that, can rival UConn when they're playing at their best and they have their best players. But, sometimes you just get your ass kicked and you have to accept it. And Syracuse lost 98-45. It's not like this was a 3-point game and the officials screwed them over. And the really good player on UConn, I'm blanking on her name, that's going to be the number 1 pick. She hit a 3 with a second left, and you're just pissed that why do we got to keep playing UConn? No, you lost by 53 points. You lost by 53. Take your L and just get up there and say, congrats to UConn. You got a great program, Geno. And
get back to work.
Yeah.
Get back to work and say, in order to hoist the trophy and for you to be interviewed as the champion, you're going to have to beat the UConns, the South Carolinas, along the way. So, it just gives us more. It wouldn't matter if you won 4 games in a row and had confidence. When you run into UConn, the point spread's going to be 20, and you're a good team. I mean, so you're going to run into. I've never understood the philosophy. Well, why do we play them? Well, you're playing them because that was the draw, and that's how it came out. This wasn't, you know what, these 5 coaches, we don't like them. Let's pair them up so we get them out of the tournament early. That's not how this thing works. If it is, then check the people that are doing it. This had nothing to do with personality or coach or where she's been. I'll tell you what, though, when you do up and respond like this, guess what? If I'm a committee member, I say, well, maybe next year we'll pair them again. If the seed works with a 1 seed playing their seed, we'll pair them again so they have to play each other. Just because she had a question, if we did it, let's just do it again to see how she handles this one.
Yeah,
that's not the problem here, Segs. This is called overloading your mouth with your ass on this program, on this one, and it's a bummer because they're a good team. They've done good things. They just ran into an WNBA, should I say, team that happens to be playing at UConn. That's how good they are.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Field Yates from ESPN dropped his latest mock draft, and here's how he has it going. He has Fernando Mendoza at 1, which I think we all agree with. And then he has the Jets.
Even though he's not the best player, that's the biggest need for the Raiders. Right?
Yes. The Jets he has going to the edge rusher spot with David Bailey, who is one of the better edge rushers in the country. And I think he's the best edge rusher, pure edge rusher in this class. Then you have the Cardinals, the Titans, the Giants, and the Browns all taking Ohio State players. You've got it going Arvell Reese, the off-the-ball linebacker / edge rusher. Then you have Sonny Styles, who I would argue is the same as Reese, but most teams supposedly have him as an off-the-ball linebacker, which in my opinion, if you're just playing him there, you're not using him correctly, and I wouldn't take an off-ball linebacker that high. And then you have Caleb Downs going to the Giants and Carnell Tate going to the Browns. Those first 6 picks, who do you like? What do you not like? Are you surprised by any?
No, Segs, the one thing I can tell you, and I know he's going best player, 4 straight Ohio State players are not getting drafted 4 in a row. That's not going to happen. And I think you can move it around with the draft. To me, you know how I feel about Caleb Downs' ability. I think he's a pencil in and that I'll see in about a decade. But anytime I can get a dominant edge rusher, the best player in this draft, while the biggest need with the Raiders getting a quarterback, some even think that there's a better quarterback in the draft, not a third one, but a better one. We talked about, Simpson yesterday, but he's not getting drafted there because of the value part of it. Edge rushers at dominant. That's as good a player. You can't screw up the second pick of this draft.
Yeah.
To me, I get it. Segs, I feel when you go over it as we get into April and studying it and moving around, you and I will do our own first round mock. I'm not going to mock the 5th round because I wouldn't have a clue who the backup tight end at Bowling Green is. But with this, to me, Segs, if I get a dominant player close to the football, and just omit the quarterback position, I got to just like at the number 2, if the best left tackle in the world was there, I'm picking him. Guys that are going to impact there. So when you get an edge rusher that you and I both think is a true dominant pass rusher, you got to take it. And I'll be honest with you, wouldn't hurt the Raiders to trade that pick and get a couple more so they could snatch a couple of these guys, but they're going to draft the quarterback. So I get it. The 3 through 6 are not going all Ohio State. 3 through 6 Ohio State are all going to probably be drafted in the first 15 or 18 picks, but I don't see them going in order. If he's just going by, these are the best players that have a need at that team. Yeah. Like I said, I'm even one of those guys. I'm greedy, Segs. If I have edge rushers that are pretty good and the next best player on my board, I'm a best available, not unless my need is so glaring.
Yeah.
I'll get greedy and stock up on it because inevitably playing 17 games is hard to do for anybody. The second pick of that draft should be a star in the league. I'm okay with it.
Do you like the Washington Commanders with where things stand with their roster right now, with the way things are going there? Do you like them taking Jeremiah Love at 7, or do you think it's too high for him on a team that has a lot of needs with the quarterback coming off the injury who showed flashes, real big flashes as a rookie, but then struggled to dealing with injuries and on the field last year in Jaden Daniels?
Segs, you know what? This would be for me, and I think Jeremiah Love's a hell of a player. You're hoping he's the next, when you draft that high, is he Barkley? Is he somebody like that we're taking that high? I usually frown on top 10 running backs unless they're going to change the whole game. I didn't have a problem. At first during the offseason, during the football season in the fall, I like Genty, Boise State, really good player, but would I take him that high? I think he's got a chance to be really good, but shelf life becomes a concern. But you're probably drafting saying, if I get 5 great ones out of them or 5 really good ones, I like it. I think Love can do that. But I think it's just too high for a team that has many needs. To me, picking that running back right there would be, we are loaded. We somehow stumbled in a trade 2 years ago into the 7th pick, and we got him, not our pick, but somebody else's pick. And we get this bonus pick. Grab the running back because he enhances our quarterback. Hell yes. Or if you love him and think he's changing your franchise's expectations and changing the ascent to your franchise, and that without him, Jaden Daniels is not going to have the success he needs, I get it. But on a team that has far more need, it feels like the running back that's got to come after a few other positions. I'm specifically talking to Washington right now.
Yeah.
Washington. If like I said, let's say all of a sudden you're saying, well, if you're drafting high, obviously you were you had a bad season. But I'm talking about, man, like when Houston gets Cleveland's pick, right? You say, damn, when they got Will Anderson, I think it was the Deshaun Watson, but Will Anderson and Stroud back to back. Yeah. You're thinking, let's just say that this guy was in this draft and you didn't have Joe Mixon or Woody Marks and you didn't know where you're going, and your defense was set. And you're saying, we took CJ Stroud. Damn.
Yeah.
Draft. It's a bonus. Like, it's not a desperation pick. It's we have a need here, but this guy can get us over the top. That's the one weak position if that's the case. Washington has too many weak positions for me to think a running back at the 7th pick. If this was the 14th pick, I'll talk to you, Sakes. Different story. And then who's available in those guys in front of him? Okay, you want Caleb Downs or Jeremiah Love? You want an edge rusher? Right. And so, but I think Love's going to be a hell of a player. But that team specifically, Sakes, if the Raiders didn't draft Genty and they were sitting in the 7 hole and had a dominant quarterback and everything, Max Crosby was there and you were loaded, and he said, Sean, they got this pick on a trade a year and a half ago for a player, I'd say, I'm okay with it. It's worth the risk. I think for Washington, this risk may be too high, unless in that building you've decided that when those 6 guys are gone, the best football player that will impact our franchise fastest is him. You saw Genty and the Raiders without a good quarterback. The Raiders are picking first. That's all I'll say about the running back position, which I hold in high regard. I don't devalue it like others, especially from the quarterback position. But the Washington football team, in a matter of a year, went from a playoff team to needing a bunch of different bodies. I'm not sure running back's the first body you take. You got 2 picks in the first round, and you could get a running back later. Will he change your franchise any more than the 2nd pick of the 2nd best running back? I don't know, Six. I just think for value, you better be damn well sure that there's not a lot of ifs by Jeremiah Love's name, and he is a great player. Washington has more needs than just a running back.
What do you think about Tennessee taking Sonny Styles, who is the off-the-ball linebacker, who does have some rush skills, but over, let's say, Reuben Bain from Miami, who showed all season long how good he was. Didn't matter the size, the arm length, any of that. He dominated when he was on the field. Would you, if you're Tennessee, take the edge rusher, which they have Jeffrey Simmons, and they got Jermaine Johnson in the trade with the Jets, and they've got some other pieces. But like you said, would you rather add in another edge rusher in Bain who can get after quarterbacks, or would you rather have Sonny Styles, the kid out of Ohio State, the off-the-ball linebacker?
I'm not going to put it this way. If I don't get Sonny Styles and the guys in front of me don't draft him, and I do get him, the people that Tennessee doesn't draft him and I get him, I got a hell of a football player. But for me, we'll go back to it. Who impacts a game more, a dominant pass rusher or an off-the-ball linebacker? And usually it's a dominant pass rusher. And I'm going back to fall, and both have had great production. Every single time I watch them play, Reuben Bain's usually the best player on the field. And even if he's not, there's a reason. That means they're doubling him, keeping him off. I always want edge rusher. And I know, Segs, it's a little bit greedy for them because they may have more needs to help the quarterback. I get it. But I'll also tell you right now that if you're going on defense, if you're Tennessee, that the edge rusher to me, plus if you have a plethora of them, guess what I can do with that, Segs? I can trade one of them for other assets if I need to. It gives me more firepower to move people. When in doubt, I always believe it. I'm greedy when I get great wide receivers because my quarterback gets better. I'm also greedy when it comes to dominant guys closer to the football who are going to impact the game. I just simply say who's going to impact the game more. Even in preparation going into the game, if you're playing a team like, if Styles is on one team, really good player, and Reuben Bain, and your game planning as a defensive coordinator, Segs, and you're going forward saying, okay, what's going to take more of my time in the game plan? It's trying to block Reuben Bain. Take Reuben Bain if, in fact, you're going defense on Tennessee and not going to draft a receiver there, Segs, where you're trying to elevate for your quarterback and a new coach.
Yeah, and then two other quick things is we talk, we're the flagship of USC football and Houston Texans coverage. We've got at 16, the New York Jets with their second first-round pick taking Mekhi Lemon. How big of a bummer would that be? And I know we don't want to talk about the Jets like this, but when you're a receiver, you go there. Garrett Wilson, great player, but we haven't heard much from him. Dealt with some injuries and hasn't had quarterbacks that can get him the football consistently. Yeah, would he be a great pair, Lemon and Wilson as wide receiver duo? But now you got Geno Smith as the quarterback, and it's kind of like, oh, what we've seen in Las Vegas last year was he kind of looked like he forgot how to throw the football. So what would you think about Mekhi Lemon in New York with the Jets?
If you're Mekhi Lemon and you're the type of football player I think you are, you embrace it because, well, it's New York and you want to go be the difference.
Yeah.
If you're Mekhi Lemon and you're saying, somebody else, please, guys, this is at the point where you say, I'll go a pick or two later. Who's right after them, Sakes?
You got the Lions and the Vikings right after them.
Okay. If you are him, you're saying, I'm just speaking if it was me from what we know about the Jets organization and the situation. It's okay then to drop 3 slots to somebody else you'd rather play for. It just is, because now if you're the Jets, you're saying, please let the guy fall that far. Segs, I'm not sure that he's fallen that. I mean, I know that's not that far. I actually think, and I don't know I haven't gone through it, but yet as far as draft order and the 12th pick, but if you need a receiver and you want a gamer, I think this is a pretty secure pick. I'm not sure he'll be available to the Jets, and maybe I'm wrong. I know all the hype that surrounds it, but when it gets right down to it, the dude's a football playing Jesse. If he is, it's a win for the Jets. If you're Mekhi Lemon right now, just looking at the landscape, you'd probably say, I'd prefer somewhere else to go because it's dysfunctional. But the true competitor usually says, I'm going to go where I can to change it. But him and Garrett Wilson on that same team, we shouldn't be talking about that offense being so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, but when I say so bad, they do have pieces. Breece Hall stays. I mean, they got some players. So that may be the pick. If you're a Lemon, you're hoping somebody in front of them grabs you and you're going to a team that's got more solidified offensive attack.
Yes. And then the Houston Texans at pick 28, he has them taking Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson, who going into the season was a top 5 pick, was a no doubt top 5 pick by all draft analysts. going into this past college season. Season didn't go well for Clemson. He had kind of a down year previous to the year before. So he's falling into that middle of the first, end of the first range. And there's a lot of teams in there that could take him. But Field Yates has Peter Woods falling to the Texans. How do you like that fit? Do you like the fact that, hey, they're going defense, even though, yeah, you could still use some offense? Where do you stand with the Texans right now?
Well, Sags, if a really good receiver was sitting there, I'd jump all over it because, well, it goes back to my greed factor, right? There is not, even though the production hasn't been Super Bowl production, there is not, the offensive line felt glaring. It's less of a weakness what it was than when this season ended.
Yeah.
And a month ago, we thought when Titus Howard, we're like, oh, hell, they were making an average offensive line a lot worse.
Yeah.
Right. But they have done a great job since then of boom, 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 knocking down dominoes along the way. Segs, if I'm looking at it, first of all, if I say to you on defense, where's the weakness?
It's that defense.
You can't really find one, right?
Yeah,
but
I would say that defensive tackle
interior.
Yes.
Segs, being here in Houston, the biggest complaint that defensively they've had is the ability to dominate the game from the inside as opposed to just the outside. And you know how that rotation of bodies goes in there. And this is a former top 10, maybe top 5 pick that Clemson had a lot of underachieving this past year. Yeah. But think about this. If you're the Texans and you say, we had him going into the season as the 7th best player, had a tough season. And that's why this offseason interviews and watching where he's gone, how he's handled, you say, we're actually getting a top 10 talent with the 28th pick. I'm all in. If there is a perceived, and even with bodies and rotation, if you didn't tell me who the body was, you know what I would have said? So, Segs, we go on offense or defense? You said defense. My first question would be, I understand why people would say, what are you doing? But then if you do a deeper dive, the interior of the defensive line has been the one where they still don't feel dominant. Good, but I'm talking about dominant. Like when you've got an Aaron, why am I losing my Aaron Donald inside? Yeah. One of those. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Donald exists out there anywhere, but that type of player that you can take over the interior, he can get to the pass rusher, but the game plan changes because of his presence, right? So you maybe get a good, I am okay, because at that point in time, I'm taking the best available player, and if he happens to be a defensive tackle, an interior guy, I'm taking him. I think that is not only a solid pick, a wise one for a defense. You can never get enough bodies to dominate, hence why they went and got depth at safety from Philly, and hence why they're getting, taking care of this. Yeah, at that point in time with the 28th, you're grateful your team's pretty good, but you say, how do we get to be even more dominant than we are in defense? But to me, it would be an offensive. You're not going to get a great tackle or offensive lineman, at least on the surface. You may get a guy who ends up being a great one, right, Segs? But I don't have a problem. If the best player available is a defensive tackle, I'm taking him at that stage. I don't have a problem with that pick. I actually think it's one of the smart picks of the first round, considering 28 picks in.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to follow over the next month how these players, where they keep stacking up when you look at different mock drafts. Because remember, when you see a Field Yates, a Todd McShay, what's the guy's name at ESPN? Mel Kiper. There you go. Any of these mock drafts, these guys are all talking to people on these teams, people in the front offices that are giving them little tidbits of, oh, here's where we may be looking. So this is, or we had a meeting with this guy and it went really well. Start paying attention to these, because you will start realizing at least what position your team could be going, and could be right down to the player that your team could be taking in a month from now.
Great point, Segs. And to Jared M730, how much of a question is the QB for the Skins? I don't have any question about the Commanders quarterback.
No.
But one, he's accurate. He's a really good kid and a good player. He's got to stay on the field. So I guess that is a question. If you're the Washington franchise, your concern isn't, can he make all the throws? Can he beat him with your feet? Is he a smart kid? Does he put the time in? He needs to learn how to get down and quit taking so many hits and quit being a hero. If he'll quit playing hero ball with the ball in his hand, running and not taking those open field hits, he takes too many of them. He took too many of them at LSU. We know you're tough. You're a good player. For me, the only weakness for him is more reps and proving as a starting quarterback. But to be a star, got to have you on the field. And in order to do that, you've got to eliminate hits that you can control. You don't need to take on 2 linebackers and a safety on 3rd and 12 in field goal range in the first quarter when you're up 14-0. Get your ass down and stay on the field, because you handing Gatorade to the backup doesn't make the Washington Commanders better.
Yeah, and we were having this same conversation however many years ago when RG3 was doing the same thing, tearing his ACL in his rookie year and then giving Kirk Cousins basically the chance to start and take over from there, and he could just never come back from injuries.
Completely changed the course of your career, Segs. Completely.
Yeah. Completely.
It did mine, and it can there.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So, all right, that'll do it. Thanks for watching Unpaved, the flagship show of Houston Texans coverage, and USC football. Will continue to follow the NFL draft over the next month, get a couple guys on to talk about the draft and what they're hearing. Get over to YouTube, like and subscribe to @Unpaved Sean Salisbury on Rumble as well. Follow Sean at Sean Unfiltered, myself at Adam G. Sager. Thank you to Bailey, Laura, all our viewers, listeners, and commenters. And we'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. We'll find the biggest news. Orlovsky doubles down on his Ty Simpson take on Pat McAfee. We could talk about that, plus plenty more. Go ahead.
What's tougher, Segs, tomorrow? I know we discussed a little today. Right. What's tougher tomorrow, heading into Thursday, to win an NBA championship or to win a college basketball championship? I'm anxious to see what people say. The road is longer for the NBA. It feels like the playoffs last 4 months. But is it tougher? We'll discuss that tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great question we can hit on tomorrow as well. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. Peace.
Unpaved, Sean Salisbury here. We're bringing authentic, real stuff to you. Hardcore opinion.
Sean Salisbury, a great NFL analyst, a former NFL quarterback.